Hello and welcome to Ham Nation, everyone. Thanks for coming out. And how's it going, everybody? I'm Josh, KI6NAZ. Thanks for coming out to Ham Nation. We've got an action-packed, literally, you'll hear in a second, show for you today. I just want to hit right up front. We're going to be doing the Discord after chat. The link is in the description. It'll take you to the Discord so you can join us over there. And I got the podcast working. So I'd love to hear in the comments if your RSS feed started populating with Ham Nation again. So I would appreciate that. And we are looking at the comments. We'll be checking out with that in a little bit. But first, I've got some late-breaking Ham Nation news here. We're going live here to an interview. Guess what, guys? Huntsville is back. So I'm throwing it over to Don. We got a special interview.
Yeah, this is exciting. A very exciting announcement. The first announcement of the first Hamfest of 2021. It's going to come up in August. And you see on your screen, that's Mark Brown in for BCD. He is the Hamfest chairman for the Huntsville Hamfest. Mark, thanks for joining us tonight. And tell us the great news about Huntsville is on.
Thank you, Don. And to all the listeners and for all the pent-up demand, we are going to have a Hamfest in August. August 21 and 22, our traditional weekend. We're going to host Hamfest 2021. It's been a long road. Of course, everyone was disappointed when Dayton had to cancel last year, and then Orlando had to cancel this year. And then Dayton had to cancel again this year. We think that with the vaccine rollout and the relaxation of the social distancing rules, but even so, we're going ahead with our planning as though the social distancing rules will be in place, the ones today. They may be relaxed, but we're not counting on it. So we want to keep everybody safe. And we went ahead with our planning. We talked to the Von Braun Center, and the key enabler this year is the capacity limits that are mandated by the state of Alabama. They told us that we could only get so many people in the room, and that just didn't work for the visitors or the vendors. But what they did was they gave us for this year some additional space. Traditionally, we do about 80,000 square feet of indoor space, and they're giving us another section of the South Hall, and that adds another 50 or 60K of square footage, and so we can spread things out. Keeping the same 50 or so commercial vendors, 384 flea market tables, maybe even more. We got the stage, we got just all kinds of stuff going on, the forum rooms. We're able to spread things out and keep it safe for everybody, Don.
Yeah, that's great news. You're going to, from what I read on the website, you're going to have 12-foot aisle spacing. So that is not only going to give you the room for the social distancing, but also it's going to make, I think, navigation a whole lot easier. And it's going to be easier, I think, in the long run to see all of the booths, both in the flea market and also in the vendor area, right?
That's exactly right, Don. The rules that were in place last year for mass gatherings mandated one-way aisles. And we just couldn't figure out a way to make that work. Certainly not in a flea market, where if you saw something, you couldn't just back up. You'd literally have to go around the room, or we could not make that work. But the bi-directional 12-foot aisles, we think we can make that work and make it safe for everybody.
And you're also going to go to you're making the push I saw on the website for getting your tickets in advance and ordering those online, because that's the one thing about the Huntsville Hamfest. There's always the big crush out in front of the doors before it opens, and that's where the tickets are sold, the majority of them. And so you're trying to get everyone to order their tickets in advance so that they don't have that crush by the ticketing booth, right?
Exactly, Don. We will move the traditionals where folks fill out their prize tickets. We'll move that further down the hall. What we may do is move the ticket sales or will call windows further up the hallway. It's been our experience that folks generally come south through that main hall, and what we'll do is we'll back things up, and people will still gather, and we hope they don't crowd each other at the entryway. It's all day long, so we're just hopeful that and actually the Von Braun Center staff told us that of the events that they've had, a couple of gun and knife shows and sporting events, in the like volleyball and stuff like that in the South Hall. People are following the guidelines. They are self-policing themselves, and they're not going to police us. We're going to do our. We'll just keep an eye on each other and keep everybody safe.
Yeah, I think after all this year, dealing with this all of 2020 and going into 21, we all know the drill. We all know that we need to stay 6 feet away from each other. We all know that we need to mask up. We all know that we need to do the fist bump or the elbow bump or just the wave or whatever as we see each other. We all know the rules and we all know how to act. And if everyone just acts accordingly, I think everything is going to be just fine. Now, this question was brought up by Amanda earlier because she has not been to the Huntsville Hamfest. I want you to explain to her and to everybody else who has not been to the Huntsville Hamfest why you guys bill it as the world's friendliest Hamfest. I've been going since 1995, and I've only missed 2 years out of that whole stretch. So I know why you're the world's friendliest Hamfest, but I want you, Mark Brown, to explain to everybody why you are the world's friendliest Hamfest.
Well, Amanda, you got to come down. You've got to see it for yourself. It's the world's friendliest Hamfest. We don't just say that. We live it. We earn that reputation. Our volunteers are happy to be there. They greet you with a smile. We help the folks with move in and move out. It extends to everything we do, and it's a guiding principle in our planning. Our planning that's a little bit behind the 8 ball. We started a little late this year because we didn't know what we were going to do, but we want to make it good for the visitors and the vendors. And if there's something you need, we're available. We're out in the crowd. We're talking to folks, and we just try to we learn from previous years, and it's a gut feeling. I grew up in the North, but I've lived in the South now for over probably 30 years, and it's just a way of life. It comes from the heart. We want to be there. We want you to be there, and it's a party, and I think when you visit, you'll agree.
Yeah, absolutely. We're rotating some pictures through over as we're talking, Mark. Go ahead and go back to those pictures. I want you to find the picture, Josh, of the 2 gentlemen in the green shirts, because that is the Hamfest. There you go. That is the staff uniform. If you have any problem whatsoever, you find anybody in a green shirt that says Huntsville Hamfest, they are the committee, and they will find the right person to help you out. And also you're seeing some pictures of the Young Ham of the Year Award, which has been hosted by the Huntsville Hamfest since 1993. And we're going to stay there as long as you guys are going to have us, Mark. And we're really looking forward to not only presenting the 2020 winner from last year, because there was, of course, no Huntsville Hamfest, so we had to actually do that at Neil Rapp's wedding, which was an event in itself. But we're going to have Chris Bro, our 2020 Young Ham of the Year, up with our 2021 winner as well when he's announced. As a matter of fact, the nominating period for the 2021 Newsline Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Young Ham of the Year Award opens on March 1st, so nominations are almost open. Anything else you want to add, Mark? I'm really happy that you guys are going to do a Hamfest this year, because quite honestly, I've been jonesing for one.
Well, like I said, we're all very excited. And when that announcement, we put the announcement on the webpage 2 days ago, but it really hit the fan yesterday when we put the announcement out on Facebook, because people shared it into other folks' inboxes or Facebook pages and whatnot. So the word traveled really fast. I could talk for 45 minutes about the details, the great forums, the great vendors that we have, the youth lounge, et cetera. But I know you got other things to get to on your program. But I appreciate you having me on here tonight, and maybe I can come back sometime in a couple of weeks and talk in more detail about what we do at the Huntsville Hamfest. I want to thank you, Don and Josh. I'm looking forward to turning around here to the other screen and watching the rest of the program on YouTube. Back to you, Don.
Well, thank you so much, so much. I just saw on my screen. Josh asked Leah's question. I am not seeing it in the chat room what Leah's question is. Well, so if someone wants to jump in and tell us what Leah's question is while Mark is still here is.
Yeah, Amanda, if you saw it, Leia's my wife, by the way, so she's quite active in the chat, so I appreciate that. Did you get it, Amanda?
I did, and I thought it was an excellent question. Leah wanted to know what qualifies as a youth ham for this award.
Oh, for the Newsline Award?
Yes, sir.
That's very easy. In fact, I will tell you about that as soon as we let Mark go so he can watch the rest of the show. Mark, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll absolutely have you back as the time gets closer to share all of the details of what is going to be a very unique 2021 Huntsville Hamfest. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Don and Josh. I'll be in touch. 73.
Thanks, Mark.
7-3. Mark Brown in for BCD.
Very good. Oop, that's the wrong one. There we go. I think I got it. Oh,
there
we lost
we go.
Amanda,
Now I
though. There
should
she
be
is. Okay.
back on this microphone. It's very confusing.
You did
All right,
it,
so
Dawn.
Let me tell
Boy,
you real quick.
we challenged Dawn to do something really crazy. That was a Skype and Zoom simultaneous. I've never done that before.
And I was hearing the audio. The latency, I was hearing both in my headphones. That's why I kept pulling my ear out while I was talking, just so I wouldn't sound like a stuttering idiot. And then I was hearing Mark double the whole time, and I'm trying to okay, I got to listen to one of these feeds. All right, so here's the thing about the Young Ham of the Year Award. It is open to anybody age 18 and younger from the United States and Canada and any of the U.S. territories. And it is for someone who has done something amazing with ham radio, either to better the community or better the world, or to advance the state of the art of amateur radio. And so it's pretty wide criteria there, but that's kind of what we judge it on. We've got 5 judges who are anonymous, and I'm not involved with the judging committee whatsoever. I find out pretty much when the world finds out who the Young Ham of the Year is, and we've been doing it since the 80s. And we're going to do it every year. That was Bill Pasternak's passion. So, of course, hamfest.org is the Huntsville Hamfest website, and the Amateur Radio Newsline website is arnewsline.org. There's a Young Ham of the Year tab up there somewhere that's pretty easy to find, and we'll have that nominating form online March 1st.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's do a quick around the room because we did want to get that kind of, breaking news out. I'll just go from Dawn. We'll go up. Joe, how's it going? What have you been up to? Uh-oh, we lost you. I think you're muted.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
There we go. That was my fault. We're finally above zero today, below zero tonight. It was 31 below zero here in Lincoln, Nebraska last night, second coldest on record. But so far, all the antennas have survived, and so have I. And so we're going to heat things up a bit, and we're going to talk about soldering irons tonight.
All right. Gordo, how you doing?
We're fine. We're nice and warm, yet we're getting health and welfare traffic out of Texas and other areas hit by the storm where hams said, hey, we don't need the internet. We don't need power lines. Please pass this traffic. Mom and dad are doing fine, and here's the phone number. So ham radio survives very well as the top way of communicating during the storms.
All right. And Amanda, looks like you're getting bundled up out there. How cold is it where you're at?
It's actually only about 22 degrees, and it started to snow again. But I'm in solidarity with all of our Texas, Oklahoma, and Mississippi families that don't have any power right now. So bundle up. Hopefully you're self-sufficient. I know most hams are, so we don't have much to worry about there. As Gordo was just saying, they're passing the traffic, saying they're getting along just fine. Anyhow, I'll be watching the chat today, and I'll be catching your questions, sending them out to the folks as they do their segments. So stick around. We have a lot more in the show.
And Dawn, I don't know, did you mention what's your temperature like down there? Because I had to put a vest on just in solidarity because I think it's pretty nice out where I'm at, and I know Gordo's feeling the same.
Well, I'll tell you, to give you some context, I'm 50 air miles north of the Gulf of Mexico near New Orleans. So it doesn't get real cold down here. The coldest temperature that we typically get for winter is 41 degrees. That's the absolute coldest in January sometime. And for right around this time of February, our typical normal temperature, normal low temp is 47. It was 22 here the other night. So that is cold for South Mississippi. and we didn't have any problems with freezing. We let the water trickle. We're on a well, and we didn't lose power, so it didn't freeze any pipes. The internet was sure slow though. But other than that, we're doing just fine. And in fact, right now it's 38 degrees.
Oh, wow.
South Mississippi.
Ooh, that is kind of cold, right, for you?
It is. It is cool. But we're supposed to be up close to 70 in the next few days, and then another cold front with more frigid temperatures coming through over the weekend.
All right. Well, I think we could probably just throw to Gordo here and get the show rolling. I'll just jump in there and take it. So, Gordo, we'll throw to you. Are you ready for the short shots?
Well, we are, Josh. In fact, we're featuring some of the loops that you talk about on Ham Radio Crash Course. So we encourage everybody to look up. I think it was, a month or so ago, Josh, that you did a great job on the chameleon loop and other loops. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's jump right into a little bit more about HF antennas. And when we talk about high-frequency antennas, you think about loading. Here's a loading coil for those that operate well below the AM broadcast band on some of the new ham radio bands around 500 kilohertz. And this is called inductive. Think of coil, inductive reactance. While some of these things may look like kludges, they are. But the best part of ham radio is they work. And I applaud any ham that can figure out how to make a motorized HF antenna that really plays. Now, for really playing, we need an antenna with high Q, about 300 or more. Now, high Q means that the ability to pull out a weak signal mobile is going to be accentuated over a very narrow group of frequencies because you've resonated that antenna to peak at a specific frequency on a specific band. This is the high Q, that's a name brand coil, and high Q has recently switched over to a new site where a new operation is running it, but it's run by Scott Snyder, retired Navy SEAL and a ham radio operator, big time. So you can still go to high-Q-antennas to see this name brand coil that you see on a lot of antennas. Now, the real action part of any high Q type of antenna is the area above the coil. That's the capacitive reactance, and that is where voltage is going to be maximum and current will peak at the, or current will ebb at the very tip top. But we need to figure out a way to get more current going and more high voltage going, so we use a capacity hat. The capacity hat is placed well above the loading coil of any type of an HF antenna with a coil in the center. And the capacity hat can be of almost any type of design. In fact, if you go to DX Engineering under hot rods, they have all sorts of capacity hats, and they can be spiral wound like this, or a capacity hat that looks like this that is more flat. But the key is you want to get more radiation up there, up near the top of the antenna. That's where it really does business. Now, if you want to plan down to 75 meters, or this operator possibly on 160 meters, there's a huge capacity hat upper left-hand corner, but quite a large mast, and that entire mast is radiating, not just the top, but the top is what literally pulls the energy to be radiated out. So capacity hats are very important. Now, there's other ways to go fixed mobile with antenna, hex beams and cobwebs, many of them available from MFJ and other great prominent manufacturers. And here it is. We're in Huntsville. And you know, the Huntsville Hamfest is so friendly to those that are in the industry. They let ICOM America put out with Ray in charge of it, their INCOM-1 unit, and they've got a monster antenna a big hex beam on the top, or maybe it's a cobweb. I can't quite see it. But, you know, I got to tell you, I've been to Huntsville several times, and I love it. They are indeed friendly. And Mark, thank you for coming on board. And there's Ray. And whenever you see big antennas on mobile unit, that's Ray's unit in the background. Does Ray have a big antenna? Heck yes. He's got a huge tower that cranks right up, and he's got a major antenna, not one for mobile and motion, but this is what it takes if you really want a monster signal. But where these really play is on 40 meters, 75, and for those brave enough, down on 160. For 10, 15, and 20, almost anything up in the air gets going. So, you know, we talked to Tracy, WM6 Tree, who's with the Mountaintop Amateur Radio Group, and they're up in Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead. And most of his members, as well as Tracy in Lake Arrowhead. And he says, you know, you got snow and stuff like that. You need something portable when you go mobile to a small town. So we followed along him, and this is the Alex Loop. And I thought, gee, in a little tiny case like this, what kind of a signal can it put out? He says, oh, you just watch. And we did watch, and we took photos. And here we were outside of the Bay Area, up in the mountains, gold country. And he made a lot of contacts running just a small helicraft with just a few watts out on the Alex Loop. Loop antennas are special, and be sure and watch Josh's ham radio crash course on his review of a loop. Hams love to home brew. And that doesn't mean you have to stop at loops, but loops with their own winding of copper foil increase the capabilities, increase the radiation resistance, and that's going to, when you square the length of any antenna or its capabilities inside that top section, you're going to get more of a signal out. Well, I'd like to run 100 watts in some of these, but you can't. And the reason is look at the bottom there, and that is the matching capacitive reactance. And some hams have even motorized their antennas with great success, up to 5 or 10 watts. But the loop has great capabilities, and this is one of them. For those that would look at a loop going, oh my gosh, you don't really get much band spread above the frequency that it's resonant on, that's the whole idea. It puts all of that energy right at the tip top there and negates energy on each side, which means that the loop antenna, electromagnetic, more on the magnetic side, is able to cancel noise. So if you live in an HOA and you haven't got a lot of room, and you want to get rid of all the noise, you may want to think about the loop antenna. And here's a home brew from Jim Ford, N6JF. And Jim says, well, I've got a vacuum variable capacitor. That's a Russian-made one, I believe, and the regular capacitor at the bottom. And that's going to take the pressure off of any power over and about 20 watts arcing over the capacitor blades on the bottom. That's the whole key. Because I'll tell you, in damp weather, you don't really want to put more than about 10 or 15 watts into a loop with capacitor spacing that tight. Well, Chameleon, a professional manufacturer of all sorts of great loop antennas and other types of emergency antenna systems, they and others, and these are only the ones that I have personally tested. There are many other great manufactured loops. They have perfected it by stainless steel sections that come together tight because you want to minimize even a fraction of an ohm in the connection points on that antenna. And the folks also make a very, very nice antenna, that the Chameleon antenna that can be used horizontal for noise sniffing or for getting rid of noise. And for those in HOAs, even have motorized attachments so you can that antenna as you rotate it through to get the very best signal. But the best part of loops that I have found is their ability to cancel all the noise. So some folks run loop antennas on the receive side of their HF radio, and they transmit on an alder antenna, and between the two, they come out great. Oh no, you got to run 100 watts into a loop. Well, you better have a loop with a big mama capacitor. And we saw this at a Hamfest, and boy, we're so happy that Mark is coming back with a real Hamfest. We've done a lot of those virtual, but nothing beats getting up there and actually taking a closer look. Wow, look at that capacitor at the base. Those blades are far enough apart that you could probably run a good 100 watts. And look at that loop itself. You could probably wrap it with your hand and not have your fingers touch. It was major. And with any loop antennas, you're going to need a lot of RF beads, and that's where Palomar really comes into play. So we encourage all of you to think about home brew. Make your own antennas, do a loop, and definitely watch Josh's ham radio crash course on loops, because he's got a great review of how a loop has hot spots and not spots and how it works. So that's what it's all about. And of course, Ray out at Quartz Fest, the Quartz Pause, a few weeks ago had a monster signal, and that's because he had the big major antenna. In fact, it was driven by an ICOM America HF ham radio like the rig I have here, like the rig that you can hear Ray on regularly. He's a regular at Hamfest. Let's tune in and see what's happening with ICOM.
Love is on the air at ICOM. This sweetheart of a package with the IC705 is the perfect sidekick for hams that like to enjoy what both the great indoors and outdoors have to offer. It's the perfect QRP companion, base station features and functionality at the tips of your fingers in a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at just over 2 pounds, RF direct sampling for most of the HF band, IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. The perfect accessory for the IC705 is the now available optional LC192 backpack with a special compartment for your IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or a day in the park. 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall, 5 watts with the BP272 battery pack, or 10 watts with external 13.8-volt DC, single sideband CW, AM, FM, as well as full D-Star functions, micro USB connector, Bluetooth, and wireless LAN, integrated GPS with antenna and GPS logger, micro SD card slot, HM243 speaker microphone, and it supports QRP and QRPP operations. The perfect accessory for the IC705 is the now available optional LC192 backpack with a special compartment for your IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or a day in the park. Other available accessories include the AL705 QRP portable magnetic antenna, BP272 standard battery pack, or BP307 lithium-ion battery pack, micro USB to micro USB cable, USB Type-C to micro USB cable, DC power cable, compact lapel PTT microphone with earphone, MBF705 desktop tray, and coming soon, the AH705 antenna tuner. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great ICOM radios.
Well, thanks again to ICOM for supporting Ham Nation. We really do appreciate it. We got a couple of questions for Gordo that we'll get to in a second, but I want to mention we did pick a winner for the grand prize for the ICOM Ham Nation giveaway, and that went to Keith D. Ken 4AQJ, so he got an ID 4100A. And just to remind people, all you need to do is go to ICOMAmerica.com/Ham Nation to get in on the contest, or it's a giveaway, and they'll pick a winner every month. It'll be for radio, and then every episode that we do of Ham Nation, They'll pick 3 winners for a swag giveaway. We got Wen Burgess, W6WHB, Dean Pantages at KC3PIK, and Pamela Crabtree, K04ESA. They all won swag in the last giveaway we did, which was 2 weeks ago for the last episode. So if you do want to get involved in that, after every episode, you can go click that Enter Now when you go to the website, and you can join the free giveaway from ICOM. So thanks again to ICOM for all of that. So let's throw back over to Amanda here real quick. You got a couple of questions for Gordo, and then we'll have him answer for his short shots.
I do. I have at least one question. Gordo, WJ3U wanted to know, who had the loop with the copper foil on it?
That was a ham in Yuma, Arizona. I honestly don't know his name, but everybody was sort of looking at it, and he says, wait a minute. He went over to an ICOM 706 and immediately made contact with the station halfway across the country, and we all went, yep, that mama talks. So unknown operator, but just proves, as what we've seen in Joss's great loop videos, all that one can be done by even winding your own, as he did with copper foil. Nothing more than a loop, but it was winding in copper foil that made the difference for him.
Okay, and one other question I have, and it's a personal question, is how much money do you have to invest to make one of these?
For a loop antenna, the investment, if you're going to operate below about 15 watts, is probably $20 in a variable capacitor, coax cable as the radiator, and a whole bunch of ferrite beads that you get from Palomar. So we're talking under 40 or $50 because it's the coax loop. If you use good coax, is just a great performer.
All right. An antenna under $50. No one can go wrong with that. Okay. Thanks, Gordo. I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Joe. Joe's going to talk to us all about soldering tools and some solder. So, Joe, take it away.
All right.
Well, good evening, Amanda and Don and everybody here. Let's see if we can put up.
Yay. Thank
All
you, Joe.
right.
Thank you, Joe. Here we go.
Apparently, if I do it in a different window, it works.
It's crazy.
And I don't know why, because they both have it. All right. Well, let's talk about some soldering irons. And it's kind of important to realize what I'm not covering tonight, and that's your $6 to $10 soldering pencils. Those are fine for different things like putting on connectors and things like that, but they don't get hot enough for like soldering a dipole. And they don't regulate the temperature very well, and the tips are hard to keep clean and so forth. So your unregulated $6 to $10 pencil irons, they're okay for certain things, but not for what we want to do when we're actually building kits and soldering parts on circuit boards. But I'm still going to cover some irons that I wouldn't use for that either. First off, this is a digital pencil iron. And most of the stuff I'm talking about tonight is under $60. So these are more affordable. This particular one, you'll see an up-down button on it, and it has a digital display, and it will tell you what temperature you set it for. And it holds it within plus or minus a couple degrees Celsius. And these are wonderful. In fact, this is what I keep with me when I fly somewheres to do a group kit build, because it takes up a tiny amount of space in my carry-on bag and works wonderful. These are available. All you have to do is look for digital soldering pencil online, and they're around $50 or so. This is another one. Now I'm showing the older version of this. This particular one is available through DX Engineering, and I think it's like $20 or something like that. And it runs on butane. And the reason I have this one is outdoors when I'm like soldering, when I was putting up all my wire antennas this last fall, I would wrap the wire around and need to solder it once I figured out where to tune the antennas. And your pencil irons and the wonderful little soldering stations aren't really appropriate for outdoor use, but these butane gas-powered irons are. And I can develop about 75 watts or more of heat gets very hot. It heats things up very thoroughly, and the solder flows well. Radio Shack does not sell these anymore, but I think it's sold as an ISO tip item, and that is available from DX Engineering, as is this one. I actually have a couple different butane soldering irons. This one is also. This one is distinguished by the fact that the knob on the back, the bottom of it, controls how much heat you get. And the tab here in front of you, if you flip it up, it lets the gas on. And then there's another one that looks just like that on the opposite side, and you pull it down and it lights a spark, and that lights the tip. The previous one, you have to use a flint starter that's in the lid. This particular one just has a button on the other side, and you just pull that down and it ignites the tip, and away you go. A little word about the solder I use. Most often, at least when I'm working on circuit boards, I use 6337. And the reason that instead of 6040 is it flows much nicer on circuit boards. Now, I have used an iron like this turned way down to work on circuit boards from time to time, but most often I use an iron like this for things like coax connectors and soldering dipoles and antennas and things like that outdoors. And it's great for field day, absolutely great for field day. This one is also pretty good for outside. I wouldn't use this once again for a lot of soldering on a circuit board, although this one is a little more precise. This is an ISO tip 7700. This one is available at a lot of local hardware stores and online and through DX Engineering. And it is a rechargeable soldering iron. It has a good old NiCad battery in it because you can safely draw a lot of current from a battery like that. It charges very quick and has a light bulb in there, lights up your work area. And once again, this is also pretty good for outdoor work, but I think that the gas-powered ones do a little better when I have wind, because the wind actually makes the gas-powered ones a little hotter because it puts a little more into the chamber. But this kind of iron is really good to keep in your portable toolkit as well. And this is kind of a close-up of what the tip looks like on that. Yes, it's a good old incandescent bulb. Because of the way this is set up, that seems to be the most efficient. This one is probably one of the most common soldering irons I see people use for kit building when they're starting out. It has its good points and bad points. A good point is it's low cost. I usually see them for about $45 or so. And it comes with the holder and a sponge to keep the tip clean, and it uses some standard tips you can get from Weller. You simply turn the heat up and down. The problem with it is that although it's variable heat, it is not thermostatically controlled like that digital one I showed at the beginning. And so when it makes contact with the circuit board, it draws heat away, just like on a unregulated pencil iron, except for the fact that you can adjust the heat level. So it's going to start out as being a little too hot. In the middle of your work, it'll probably be about right. But if you keep it on something that's going to sink a lot of heat, it will go below the temperature you really want. But it is good for starting out, and a lot of simple circuit board kits, this is appropriate. This is also similar to that, but you'll also notice it has a 3-prong plug for the AC. And once again, it's variable, and it's a real thin tip. It's a little more regulated in that it has a little more robust power supply, so it's not as prone to dropping off in heat when it's connected, but still not thermostatically controlled. And the same goes for this. This is a little 8-watt soldering pencil, and this one I've seen various places on the web. I got this one through Tower Electronics, but I don't know if they still carry it. Very, very small, very, very light, and a really, really tiny conical tip on this thing. And I have used this to repair pieces in PC boards that are surface mount and very, very small contact spaces. So this little one is really good, especially for surface mount parts, things like that. But you can also use what we're going to show next. This particular one actually is distributed by a place here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I did not know that at the beginning until I found out it actually comes from here in Lincoln. This particular one has been updated since this picture was taken, and it has a couple of helping hands. Now, what that is it's a flexible kind of a gooseneck kind of a thing with an alligator clip on it, and it has two of those, so you can hold like a wire up to a connector or hold a power pole or other type of connector while you're soldering it. So kind of a helping hands thing that they've added to it at no additional cost. In fact, they sell for about $55 for this. It has the solder roll holder. Once again, we use that 6337 solder because it flows a lot better, a lot easier, makes a lot better connections. And this thing has two different kinds of tip cleaners. One has flux and brass in it, and the other is a sponge. It has a nice tip holder, very flexible wire. And it's a 3-prong plug, which means that it's good for CMOS and so forth. It is grounded. This one has variable temperature. You can set it Celsius or Fahrenheit. I keep it around there where it says 640 or so. That's a good temperature for when you're using 6337. And it goes to sleep after a few minutes so that you don't overheat the tip. And then as soon as you pick it up, it senses that and it starts heating it up right away. In fact, even from a dead stop, turning it on, within 30 seconds, it is up to the temperature that you have set it for. And it's available from xtronicusa.com, and it's sold through them directly, and they also sell through Amazon or eBay. So if you've got like Amazon Prime, you can get it sent to you within a couple of days. And then finally, we make mistakes, don't we? So this is a very, very inexpensive, it's like around $20 or so, hollow tipped soldering iron. Now, if you look at it carefully, it is obviously not thermally regulated, but it doesn't need to be. And what it does is you heat it up and then you squeeze the bulb and then you put it over the connection. And because it's hollow, you kind of put it right over the wire that's coming out of the hole in the circuit board. And you hold it steady on there and nice and tight. And then you let go of the suction cup and it draws the solder into the head of this tool. And then I take an old glass ashtray and I squirt it into that to get it out of the tool so the head is clear. But the neat thing about this is that it's very inexpensive and it does a really, really good job of cleaning out all the holes in a circuit board when you're trying to get a part out and save it so that it doesn't damage the part and you can replace it on another part of the board. So at this time, I am going to see if this will let me close that. And there I am. How about that?
Yeah, you got a ton of questions, Joe, too. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm always ready.
Oh, yeah, you're almost like Radio Shack. We've got questions, you've got answers. So,
well, I actually used to work for them back in the 70s.
Well, there you go.
Did you really?
Yes,
oh, that's
I did.
Funny. So, all right. The one of the first questions was the flux percentage recommended.
Okay. I don't know what percentage. I just buy the solder that's got the flux in it, and I go for solder that has rosin core, no clean. And it looks better when it's done. It flows real nice. Like I said, if you can get 6337 rosin core, no clean, and 0.015 or up to about 0.30 thickness, 0.25 works too, is ideal. You don't want it any thicker than 0.30 or 0.31, and you don't really want any thinner than 0.15, which is kind of hair thin. 0.25 is what I use when I'm dealing with smaller connections, smaller pads on the board. Kind of a rule of thumb is that you don't want the solder or your soldering tip any thicker than the pad on the board that you're soldering to.
Okay, so you answered kind of my second question there about what diameter is best. So you kind of mentioned that. The next question is, are there instances when silver solder is preferred?
Certain kinds of connectors. Sometimes people use it on PL259s and things like that. I don't use it very often at all. There are some things, especially if they're exposed to weather and things like that, they seem to do better. But I have some, but I don't use it very much.
And I would suppose that it might be more expensive. So why?
It is, but like I said, the silver bearing solder has a little lower resistance, but it's more how the alloy performs in the weather.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm following chat here. So someone just says, all I know is that you're not supposed to touch the soldering iron when it's hot. Yes, please.
Yeah, and I've seen the internet meme with the lady holding the iron on a motherboard, which I don't do very often, let alone holding the shaft.
Another one. So Joe, can you actually honestly answer this? How many soldering irons do you own?
That's a good question because everything I've shown you, I have, and
Really?
at least
Those
one.
aren't stock photos. Those are all Joe's photos.
The real thing.
Yeah, I have at least one of each of those. It's kind of like, Amanda, how many shoes do you have?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Wait,
Hey,
whoa,
You
whoa.
know what else Joe's got a lot of? Joe's got a lot of screwdrivers.
That's
Look at
right. And when you see me at a Hamfest, you say hi, and I will give you one of those genuine K0 NEB screwdrivers. So if you see me at Huntsville, I'm going to have a bag full of those.
This is one of the vintage ones that's not
Yeah,
double-ended.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
an
the
OG.
very.
That's
that
the OG
is-
screwdriver. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the very earliest version of those. Is this one?
And Joe, we heard you've already got your plane ticket. You're ready to go to Huntsville. Is that correct?
Yes, I already have my plane ticket reserved and my room and everything. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Here's something that I heard about the host hotel is the Embassy Suites. I understand that it is already sold out.
Wow.
I'm not
Wow,
surprised.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pent up demand.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Well, I think a lot of people just held their reservations over from 2020, probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this year will be the 12th anniversary of a famous ride in Don's car.
That's right, where you got the CQ job.
That's right. We had my editor, Rich Moseson, in the car, and he was sitting in the back seat behind me, and he gave me the proposal to start writing for CQ magazine while Don was driving. And the first thing Don says, don't say, just sit there. He says, say yes.
We were on our way to dinner with Andrew Koenig, the Young Ham of the Year 12 years ago.
Yep, on the way to Five Guys, and I have a picture that I took there, and that was so. I have a very, very big warm spot in my heart for the Huntsville Hamfest.
Yeah.
Oh,
that'll
you guys
mark-
are so sweet.
12 years I've written for CQ when we go to Huntsville this year.
Well, very good. I do have one more serious question. The first person that had asked a question about the silver solder, they also want to know if you would use the USB iron as an outdoor type iron. I'm not even sure what that means. Okay.
That iron, I have a USB powered iron, and that one also has USB to adjust it. And it is not powerful enough to use outdoors. It's your 8 to 10 watt type iron, and anything like that, even the slightest amount of wind is going to draw the heat away from the tip. And so, like I said, when I'm outdoors, I'm not soldering circuit boards. Chances are I'm wrapping thick antenna wire together, and I want to deliver a lot of heat to that connection so the solder flows nicely. And so I use the butane type iron the most often when I'm outside.
Okay, so I'm going to guess that in minus, you said 36 degrees there in Nebraska.
Minus 31 wind chill,
31.
or minus 45.
So you're not soldering outside at all right now.
No. In fact, I'm not even walking in my backyard. There is 15 inches of snow back there right now.
Wow.
You'd need a thermonuclear soldering iron and that kind of thing.
A
Definitely.
blowtorch.
But you know what? My remote coax switch, all the relays work. The rotator turned at minus 25.
Wow.
So I'd say everything is working.
That's
all
great.
right. Well, I do want to say thank you, Joe, for introducing us to so many different soldering irons. I did recognize the Radio Shack butane soldering iron. Jeff had one of those, definitely. So, and Don made a dad joke about solder suckers. Don?
Yeah. Solder suckers are hot.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Get it? Hot.
Get it?
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
we got it.
that means
We
it's
got
time
it.
for me to hand it over to Don
I
for
think-
today's news.
Joe, you
Yeah.
nailed the transition perfectly.
Well, there you go. All right, hey, we've got Dr. Tamitha Sco. She's going to talk about the sun, and she's going to do that right after we hear about the news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline. So let's do that now. From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2259, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. Regrouping to accommodate the pandemic, a respected emergency communications event has been able to extend its reach far beyond the Pacific Northwest.
For the first time in its 20 years, Communications Academy is going global.
Yeah,
The pandemic has
what we
turned
call
the
a
two-day
technical
emergency
difficulty.
preparedness
So we'll just
conference in
go ahead and
Pacific
talk.
Northwest
And hello,
into
chat
a
room.
live
Yeah,
online
yeah.
event with possibilities for
The audio
international
is blurring out.
participation. It's being held this year on April 10th and 11th.
Good job,
Although
Amanda.
it attracts a
Great
sizable
job.
number of hams, attendees needn't be amateur radio operators. In fact, many of the presenters are hams, including Tom Cox, VE6TOX,
Who knew we could throw
ICS
so much
consultant for
seriousness
Alberta
into
Emergency
funny?
Management Agency, Jason Bierman, KI7
That's where we're
KVP,
at.
Director of Snohomish, Washington's Department of Emergency Management, and Ward Silver, N0AX, will present on station grounding and bonding. If you're anywhere in the world and want to sharpen your emergency communication skills, this is a free opportunity to receive training while getting real-time access to presenters. Although the presentations will be recorded, the experts will be available for live chat with attendees in question and answer sessions. Tim Helming, WT1IM, told Newsline in an email that Com Academy is the only surviving significant event in Washington state and was made possible by switching to a virtual event. He said, quote, "It promises to be a great training opportunity for all of us in Washington state and perhaps beyond," end quote. For details or to register, visit comacademy.org. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Christian Kudnick, K0STH.
Field Day is coming up, and the ARRL says last year's pandemic rule changes will stand pat.
To ensure that clubs and individuals have adequate planning time for Field Day this year, the ARRL has announced that the same modified rules from last year's pandemic plan will be in place this year, along with new power limits for Class D and Class E stations. Both are home stations, with Class C operating on emergency power. Both will have a limit of 150 watts PEP. As with last year's scoring, club scores will be a sum of all individual entries, attributing their points to a club. Field Day will be held on June 26th and 27th. Additional updates are available on the Facebook page of the ARRL and the ARRL's own Field Day page on its website, arrl.org.
Newsline anchor Stephen Kinford in 8WB. Congratulations to the California ninth grader and amateur radio operator who is among those students to win the prestigious Congressional App Challenge.
Sean Donlan, KM6NGN, is the author of an amateur radio app for mobile devices that simplifies coordination tasks for net controllers overseeing hams in the field at public service events. The app, NetHam, was the top winner in the 2020 Congressional App Challenge in his home state's 11th congressional district. The United States House of Representatives established the nationwide award 8 years ago to inspire students in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. The award is being given out this year in 308 of 435 congressional districts. The app makes use of a Raspberry Pi 4B, an Arduino, and a Nexion HMI touch display. To see it in action, watch Sean's demonstration video, the web address you'll find in this week's newscast script at arnewsline.org. Well done, Sean. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Neil Rapp, WB9 VPG.
On a related note, the nominating period for the 2021 Newsline Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Young Ham of the Year Award will open on March 1st. You'll find the nominating form and all information on our website, arnewsline.org. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Christian Kudnick, K0STH, Stephen Kinford, N8WB, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
Space weather this week is definitely picking up a bit. As we take a look at our front side sun, you can see the 2 dark coronal holes, one in the south and one in the north. Those are going to be rotating in through the Earth strike zone here in about 3 or 4 days, and they will be sending us some fast solar winds so we can get some activity from that. But wait, there's more. Take a look just above that southern coronal hole, and you can see a huge snake-like filament, and it looks like it wants to erupt. It's just below that active region, and it's sandwiched in these really unstable regions. So we're kind of waiting on pins and needles, because if it erupts, it definitely will give us a solar storm. But wait, there's more. If you take a look to the west of the coronal hole in that south, you'll see a puff. That is actually a launch of a solar storm. It looks like this particular solar storm is going to go west of Earth, but it might just graze us just a little bit, and it's going to come right around the time that we're getting that fast solar wind. So we could get multiple bump ups to the activity that we're expecting, and it could bring us some more aurora. Now, as we switch to our far-sighted sun, this is stereo A, and it's looking at the sun from the side. The first thing you can see when you take a look at stereo's view is look at that huge snake-like filament. This is the thing that we're waiting to see. We're waiting with bated breath to see whether or not it's going to actually launch as a solar storm. If it does, it's going to be some beautiful eye candy. On top of that, you do see the coronal holes, and on top of that, you actually do see a little bit of a bright region rotating into stereo's view on its east limb, and that means we're going to boost that solar flux just a little bit, and that's good news for amateur radio operators and emergency responders. Switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are anticipating some fast solar wind from first that southern coronal hole and then the northern coronal hole. They're going to be rotating into the Earth strike zone over the next couple days to give us kind of an extended period of fast solar wind. So at high latitudes over the next few days, NOAA's expecting active conditions with up to about a 65% chance of a major storm. Now we also have that solar storm that was launched just west of Earth, and depending upon whether it grazes Earth or not, we could actually jump to minor storm conditions about midweek. So that could extend that storming period for a little bit longer. Now at mid-latitudes, we're only expecting unsettled conditions over the next couple days, but we do have up to about a 30% chance of a minor storm. And then on top of that, we also have that, again, that solar storm that might actually boost us a little bit. But aurora photographers at mid-latitudes, man, it's really hard to predict how much enhancement we're going to get from that grazing solar storm passage. So likely you're going to have to wait to see in real time to see whether or not the aurora is actually going to make it down to mid-latitudes. I wish I could give you a better prediction than that, but I can't. Nonetheless, it looks like it's going to be a very interesting week. Switching to our solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, everything continues to be in the green when it comes to big solar flares. Once again, we are back to a spotless sun right now, and that means we have no risk for radio blackouts on Earth's day side. That should make you GPS users very happy. Your reception should be pretty good on Earth's day side right now. However, we do have a bright region on the Earth-facing disk that's keeping us in the low 70s for solar flux, and we also have another kind of plage bright region. It's a very fuzzy bright region that's rotating into stereo's view right now. That region will be rotating Earth's side in a few days, and so that will bump that solar flux up to probably around 73. That's not a bad number, right? We like 73 if we're amateur radio operators, so that's an okay number. We'll live with it. But likely those conditions are going to continue over the next week because we don't see any other bright regions anytime soon. So we're just going to have to keep dealing with marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side. Now, also because we are at solar minimum, we're still trying to climb out, believe it or not. We do have a higher incidence of cosmic ray flux than we'd like to have. So you frequent flyers, and this does include aircrew who fly over 800 hours annually and fly at high altitudes and high latitudes, you are in the moderate range for radiation dose, and this does include prenatal passengers. So please take this into consideration in your flight plans. So the space weather this week is definitely keeping us on our toes. There is a lot going on this week, including some fast solar wind from two coronal holes that are going to be rotating in through the Earth strike zone, and it's going to give us an extended pocket of fast solar wind easily over 3 or 4 days. So aurora photographers, definitely if you're at high latitudes, you're going to get a show. Mid latitudes, we'll have to see how it all pans out, because remember, we also have that westward launched solar storm that could graze Earth, and if it does, it could definitely enhance conditions and bring aurora down to mid-latitude. So hang on, we'll find out whether that's going to happen. And then, of course, on top of that, we also have that huge snake-like filament, and if that thing erupts, because that is actually rotating in through the Earth strike zone right now, and if that erupts, not only will it be some gorgeous eye candy, but it yet will be another solar storm to take a look out for. So we're definitely keeping our eyes on the sun this week. Now, amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, the story isn't quite so great for you. We do have a bright region on the Earth-facing disk, but it's only keeping us in the low 70s for solar flux, and that means marginal radio propagation on Earth's day side, and that sadly is going to be the story easily for this week and possibly in through next week as well. And now finally, you GPS users, well, you know, we don't really have any big issues going on the day side, so your reception for GPS should look pretty nice on Earth's day side, but we do have the fast solar wind that's hitting around Earth's night side, so you could have some reception issues, especially at the dawn dust terminators and especially underneath aurora, so definitely expect to have issues on Earth's night side. I'm Tamitha Skov, a Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
Always good stuff from Dr. T. Make sure you follow her on Twitter. There the thing was right there, at Tamitha Skov. And, of course, her website, spaceweatherwoman.com. But Twitter is the best way to get her up to the second input on solar weather and how it affects us here on the Earth. Josh?
Yeah, I'll make sure I get the links for Tamitha on the Discord, the description for the video, because I know there's a lot of people that were asking in the chat. I'll mention it right up front before I throw to Amanda for the comments. We did get the comment on the CES ham for Huntsville, so there are still rooms available, and it sounds like they did kind of reserve some rooms for people that are interested in getting a hotel room, which it sounds like there are plenty, so that should be a lot of fun. Hope everybody's planning to get out there. Don't know if the wife will let me go. That's the topic for the after chat, when I shut everything down for the night. We'll see how that goes. She's in the chat, though, so she's probably already thinking I'm going to ask her. Amanda, did you catch anything
Josh,
good? Yeah, what's that?
My wife, Dawn, is not a ham, and she was just as excited as I was when I went and told her that Huntsville was on this year. She loves going to that. So you and Leah should definitely make the trip to Huntsville.
We'll see.
Seriously,
we're watching
I like
live.
Huntsville. I like Huntsville better than Dayton.
I'm watching for her chats to start scrolling up above my head right now, so we'll see. Amanda, did you catch anything good in the chat?
So I was actually thinking Dawn. I was thinking that Dawn was happy that you're finally going to leave home for a weekend without her.
Oh, that too.
But hey, if she can have a fun time there too, I think it's worth it.
She loves it. Absolutely loves it.
And someone was talking about Dr. T. If you join her Patreon, is that how you pronounce it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, something like that.
She has some mini courses available, so be sure to join on that as well, and you can learn more. Because there is a couple comments like, I have no idea what the hell she's talking about right now. So get on that and figure it out.
See, that's the beauty about Tamitha Skov is she's friggin' brilliant. Okay, she's a doctor, and she's not Dr. Pimple Popper or anything like that. She's a sun doctor. Okay,
a sun doctor.
But here's the well, whatever.
Pop sun pimples, right?
I'm clearly not. I'm clearly not. But see, here's the thing. She can take something as wild as solar physics and make some idiot like me understand it.
Yes.
She's like Gordon West. Gordon West can take something as technical as amateur radio and literally make anybody understand it, which is why he has the #1 instructional material on the planet for this hobby. Scove is a lot like that. She can literally take all that down and distill it into the lowest common denominator to where anybody can understand it. Just pay a little bit of attention to her and send her emails and Twitter questions. She will tell you exactly what's going on.
I'm not going to say it's because she might do some contracting for the DOD, but she's learned how to have to dumb it down. I hope no one takes offense.
And that was because she met me. That was for me. That's probably for me. Yeah, pretty sure.
Oh, you guys know, Don, you brought up Dr.
Yeah, now everybody's talking about it in the chat.
I was going to mention that dude that does the toenails, but that's kind of disgusting.
Dude. Oh yeah, I don't know.
There's another show. There's another show for podiatry.
Oh boy.
But that brings up a whole different thing with feet, so we're not even going to get into that.
Yeah.
I don't do that. Nope. Okay. So before I do questions, you guys, if you have questions, put them on chat right now. But we do have some other information. We have a late breaking. It's not an infomercial, but it's definitely public relations. We wanted to let you know how KA6 LMS is handling their special event station. So we've got that video ready to roll.
Yes. Well, we did, but hold on. Now I've got to make sure I've got it flipped over. Boy, I almost forgot about that part, but we got it.
In Allen's TV series, Last Man Standing, you'll have a final chance to contact the show's amateur radio club station before it goes QRT.
KA0XTT73.
The week-long KA6 LMS radio special event starts on March 24th at 0000 UTC and runs through 2359 UTC on March 30th. This will be an all-mode, all-band event.
CQ. This is KA6, LMS, Kilo Alpha 6.
This is Kilo Alpha 6, Lima Mike Sierra calling CQ.
Fans will have the opportunity to work the bonus 1x1 stations, K6L, K6M, K6S, W6L, W6M, and W6S. Stations from every call sign area will operate as KA6LMS/0 through KA6LMS/9, providing nationwide coverage. The remote operators are a virtual who's who of ham celebrities, contesters, and podcasters. Many will live stream their operations. Check spotting sites like DX Summit for pop-up operations on any day and at any time during the event week. We expect the on-stage radios to be in operation from the studio in California on Saturday, March 27th at 1800 UTC using 20 meters, and on Sunday at 2200 UTC using 40 meters. If you're a fan of digital modes, Saturday, March 27th is your day. At 1700 UTC, KA6 LMS will be using D-Star on Reflector 12 Alpha, hosted by the Papa repeater system. At 1900 UTC, the D-Star action moves to Reflector 30 Bravo, hosted by Georgia D-Star. At 2300 UTC, AmateurLogic.tv will host the KA6 LMS multi-mode QSO party, using All-Star, DMR, D-Star, NXDN, P25, Echolink, Ham Shack Hotline, Wires X, and Yaesu System Fusion. KA6 LMS QSL cards will be available for stations who contact the stage directly or through relay stations. Special event certificates, including clean sweep endorsements, will be available via download. The KA6 LMS radio event is sponsored by the Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club's 12 Days of Christmas team and K2 Heroes teams. In association with AmateurLogic.tv, the Papa repeater system, and Georgia D-Star. And of course, Last Man Standing and KA6 LMS have always been powered by ICOM. For more information, go to www.gsbarc.org/LMS/.
Fantastic. Boy.
If you're a fan of Tim Allen's...
That was not what I wanted to do. There we go. Okay.
Wow.
Looking forward to that.
I am too.
I will. I wasn't able to get on this video, but I will be running a stream, and I'll be running the K6, the 6 call sign, I believe. So I will be out there.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
And I may be helping to relay for John, who will be in studio, and he wanted to mention, and I think it's worth noting, if you go back on that video, I'll also post that in the description, the link. There's a section where it shows the 7300 in the studio. That studio has the highest noise floor I've ever seen anywhere.
It does.
And
Crazy.
John's saying because of things kind of being shut down, the noise floor is much, much better. So he should actually be able to make more contacts. And if you want a studio contact, this is probably the it's going to be probably the last opportunity to get it.
Yeah.
So it's time to get in there if you can.
And
Absolutely.
as far as I know, I'll be one of the 1x1 call signs as well. So
Excellent.
we'll try and get everybody from both coasts from here.
Good.
It's going to be an awesome special event, by the way. You're going to see us like overrun the bands that week. But I think it's well worth it, first of all, because it brought a lot. First of all, the show is awesome. So I'm really looking forward to saying goodbye to it in a special way. But also, all of these people that have the opportunity to get a QSL card and those things from and you get a special certificate if you get like a whole like
Clean sweep.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
So
each call area and the 6 call signs.
That's
Yep.
right. So if you get the clean sweep, you're golden. You get an awesome certificate. So Randy, K7AGE, he's a contributor here. He wanted to remind us, don't forget to watch the Mars landing tomorrow. So be sure to do that.
Thank you.
And I didn't even know.
Good reminder.
Yeah. Perseverance.
Yes.
Yep.
And someone said, and what time? Golly, I don't know. Please Google
think
it.
it's like 3-something Eastern.
Okay.
Yeah. There's going to be a live stream on YouTube. I've been seeing that pop up in my feed all the time. So just go to YouTube probably and search for that and you'll find it. Or go to the NASA website. NASA TV will, I'm sure, cover it as well. So
Yep.
Yeah.
They have a great stream. So
Yeah, they do.
They're awesome. Pretty good bandwidth, stuff like that. So I didn't have any other questions. I just wanted to mention that I have forgotten to mention the nets that go on after this show. So I'm sorry. That's my fault. But we do have the 40 meter and 80 meter net tonight, and 40 meters taking place on 7195. And we've got 75 meters on 3813. Now, if I'm wrong on that, or if they had to move because of QRM, I apologize, but you'll find them. Mm-hmm. And also we have a D-Star on 14 Charlie and DMR on 31012. So be sure to join in any way you can. Other than that, I think we're at the end of the show.
We do have the Discord after chat, which I'll be going to,
Okay.
and I do owe Joe the link, and we'll get that added so I can get you guys in. And of course, you're all welcome to join. I appreciate it's later for certain people than it is for me, but I will be heading over to Discord, and the link is in the chat room or the description of this video. Our Discord's running 24/7. There's always somebody out there talking about ham radio, so it's a lot of fun. Boy, it was a good show. We tested the waters on a couple of things tonight, and we really put Dawn through the ringer of having to do both Skype and Zoom simultaneously. That was awesome.
That was interesting.
You
That
did
was
that
interesting.
like well, you are a professional. You
He is
handled
a
it
freaking
as
pro.
one would expect you to handle it.
Well, I used to
Masterfully.
be.
Thanks, Josh.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks so much for everybody for watching. I think I'm starting to feel it now. We're getting the groove. So I really thank you all for watching. I really do. I appreciate it. So yeah, big thanks to everybody, and thanks all the hosts. Thanks again to all of you. Thanks.
Excellent.
Well, thank you.
Just saw in the chat room, thanks to all the Ham Nation hosts, inspired me to get my ham license. Very good.
Oh,
That's great.
Excellent. Excellent. I can't see the name on the little screen, but congratulations. Hey, welcome to the family. I'm going to go watch some TV with my wife. It's raining out here right now. And so I'm going to unplug the radios and everything because and watch the news, because after the 10 o'clock news on our local New Orleans Fox affiliate, they have Last Man Standing. So I'm going to go watch it. And it's cool because my wife is so sick of every time that the Ham Shack picture comes on, I go, look, there's my card.
Yep.
I never got mine.
I
there.
do
was
the
bummed
same
out about
thing.
that.
I got one there too.
But you know what? I never did get a chance to get the Newsline Amateur Radio Club WA6 ITF card on there, which is right above that show. Right there. That's it. Little black card.
Oh, right.
So I didn't get that in time to get on the wall, and I think they redid the set anyway. But I owe John Amadeo one of those cards. So yeah. Sorry to see Last Man Standing come to an end, but you know it's reruns are all over the place. And we had 15 episodes, I think, at one time on our DVR, and we just one night just binged them all. So great show.
I did see one question about when's the next Ham Nation. So
2 weeks.
2 weeks. It's 2 weeks.
But we do thank you for watching, and we know you would love it to go to a week. And I'll just say it's me. We'll talk about that in the future. But we're having fun doing it. We thank you all for watching, and I think we'll leave it at that. 73.
And let's hear it for Josh.
Oh,
thank you, Josh, for all you do for Ham
Almost
Nation.
lost it there in the middle, but we pulled it through. All right, everybody. I'm heading to Discord and maybe the nets too.
All right.
So I'll talk to you all then. And thanks to the host. Yeah, there you go. Wave the screwdrivers as we go.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night. Josh, you still here?
Yes. Hold on one second.